All right, let's go ahead and get started. I am Greg Parker with Rentex, and I'm happy to be joined by Vincent Ayala from Barco. He's a product specialist for the Event Master series, Event Master products, including Encore3. And today he's going to walk us through the fundamentals of Encore3 and the Event Master platform and their whole image processing product section at large. And then we'll do a short look at the some of the resources that are available and then basics in the toolset software that runs Encore3 Event Master Toolset 10.2. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Vince, and we'll get started.
Hey, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're joining. I appreciate you guys tuning in and joining us on this call. As Greg mentioned, we're just going to do a quick introduction, work over some hardware stuff, system architecture, and just want to quickly cover what you'll learn in this. We want to teach you kind of the core purpose and value of the Encore3. To be fair, I'm kind of reading from some notes here. How inputs and backgrounds are set up, how outputs are set up, how to validate systems, and then we're going to go in and really kind of dive a little bit deeper inside of Event Master toolset to talk about some of the cool features and fundamentals, especially regarding some of the new updates, like the 10.2 update, the 10.1, 10.2 update that just launched, stuff like that. So without further ado, let's jump in.
One thing real quick, I forgot to mention at the top, but we do have the Q&A enabled for this. So if you submit questions as we go through, we will review those. And if there's something to talk about in the moment and topical, I might interject with Vince. And if not, it's something we'll review and try and catch later. So go ahead and use the Q&A section as you need.
Absolutely, yeah. And to double down on that, we do have one of our awesome pre-sales engineers, Eric Ewing, monitoring the Q&A chat, so he can help with any information that's needed, as well as Greg's always a great resource for information too. And of course, I don't mind interruptions. If you've ever been in my class, in one of my classes, or taken kind of any kind of instruction from me, you'll know that I'm a little ADD sometimes, and I don't mind being distracted to dive down rabbit holes. So happy to stop. All right, so let's jump into it. Let's quickly talk about our image processing portfolio. So we have quite a lineup of multi/large screen production switchers, single/dual screen switchers. We do AV over IP with IPMX transcoders. We have scaling up down cross converter, right, like the Image Pro 4K. We have all of our Gen 2 cards, and of course our controllers like the EC30, EC50, EC210. I don't really want to get down into what each one of them does, but if we take a look at the next slide here, which of course you can always come back and consult these slides on this recording that Rentex will host, but taking a look at stuff like the PDS 4K, that's really for like single screen, dual screen stuff for small events, breakout rooms, and the such. And then we step into awesome stuff like the legendary E2 Gen 2, S3, EX, and then of course the new Encore 3. We like to say that E2 was HD, was purpose built for HD, but it was 4K ready. Now the Encore 3 is purpose built for 4K with 8K ready, meaning that there is a path for growth within the products. So when they launch, they're just, they're not limited functionality by any means, but there's always room for growth in them. If we look at stuff like signal management, the Image Pro 4K and even the EX are kind of classified in those. That's pretty cool stuff for slicing, dicing, very basic switching. Now the real, what I like to think is the real value prop behind the Image Pro 4K is it's an up-down cross converter, meaning it can upscale, downscale, or cross convert between connectors at ultra low latency, ultra high fidelity. Like we tell everybody, most of our products especially the flagship ones like the Encore3, E2, Image Pro 4K. Those are all internal 12-bit 444 processing, so you get the best possible scaling at the lowest latency. And then, of course, we have our I/O gateway series, so we can support stuff like IPMX 2110. We can convert and route from baseband to those AV over IP solutions. So one of our big, it was an ad campaign for a while, but the reality of it is that we kind of bleed this stuff, right? It's no Barco, no show. And when we talk about the 4 pillars of why we're a reliable partner for shows and venues, we're state of the art. We focus on trying to maximize the ROI, the return on investment for small businesses as well as large businesses, right? We like to boast that we're fairly reliable in live event switching. The E2 Gen 2, the E2 itself has a legacy of being like the Cadillac, the gold standard for reliability. And we're working to earn that with the Encore 3 as well, of course. And then they're future proof, right? As I said earlier, they're, like the E2 is HD based, 4K ready. Encore 3 is 4K based, 8K ready, because we know that we know that there's a future to all of this. And we try to plan for upward mobility on the product as well as, improving the customer experience over time. So, like we've said, we've been the standard in quality for decades. So there's, on most of our products, it's less than 1 frame latency to be able to drive multiple displays in perfect sync, like projectors, LED walls, LCD walls, panels, anything that can accept a baseband signal. We're ultra low latency. If we take a look at, a typical processor, which is 420, 422, you start to see banding and a color reproduction like you see in this. In fact, Teams might actually be squashing this image. Have to check out the recording later. But on the left-hand side of the image over here on the right is you can see the banding in the sky, but with 444, we start to see a smooth gradient in the sky, and that's really it's like a pillar of our value proposition. Is we do everything with ultra high, trying to preserve ultra high fidelity, right? And so we also see, down below some scaling and artifacting images. Typical processors have heavy artifacts when you start to scale up or even scale down, right? We do our best with our amazing algorithms, our proprietary amazing algorithms that to reduce those artifacts, as well as tearing, with Genlock, and even without Genlock, our outputs are synchronized to avoid tearing when we write video frames. So let's take a look at the Encore 3 a little bit, because that is our newer flagship processor. So if we take a look at the Encore 3, we have our motto: better, faster, stronger, broader canvas space. Broader canvas space, expanded system resources with easy linking and advanced transition between layers during uptime, during runtime. We're faster. We've improved setup by reducing the need for pre-config resource management and our super awesome user-assisted workflows. And we're stronger, right? Redefined yet familiar user interface with a shorter learning curve, especially when we talk about our web widget panel, which we'll touch on a little bit later. And again, all the cool stuff you like to see from us: ultra low latency, 8K ready, 4K native, the Athena scaler, 60 hertz with 444 12-bit, Dante in the asterisk in the future, HDR, LTC time code, integrated show control. Like, all of these awesome things are all wrapped up into the Encore 3 ecosystem. So we're shooting for, one presentation platform for every screen and every event. not just a monolithic box, right? Because we can with our linking scheme, we can break these apart and hit every event. So for everything from small little breakout rooms I could see Encore3 and those all the way up to the larger general sessions or installations. Now, Encore3 is, of course, designed to maximize your investment. It has a powerful processor for every event, state-of-the-art technology, operational ease of use. Really want to tool down on that. I'm going to show you some of that cool stuff later because it's all about high speed, low drag, right? Fast and easy setup, trying to get items on screen as soon as possible so that you can save time on setup and utilize that time programming, making your show better. And one of the things that we've learned over the years is the easier it is to set up, the more time you have to actually refine your programming during the show. And we really tried to incorporate that in the thought process as we were designing the interface, which you'll see a little bit later. Now we talked about return on investment, right? We were using Gen 2 cards with increased capability. So inside of an E2, a Gen 2 card really has a maximum of 2 4K, but inside of an Encore3, it has the capability to bring in 4 4K inputs per card, which to me, which to us really speaks to the fact that we want to make sure you get your money's worth when you purchase with us, right? We want to make sure that you have a longevity of usage coming from our products, right? It's showcasing that, right? It's really the proof is in the pudding. We're allowing people to reuse, coming up on 10-year-old cards in the newer processor. Now there will be new cards eventually, but allowing people to use their older cards, increasing the capability of those older cards really speaks to our testament on our return on investment. Additionally, the EC30, EC50, EC210 support that we're using for the new product really shows you that, you buy once, you can use it for many years, right? Additionally, we have sorry, let me go back a little bit. We have a buy what you need with a build to order. And then of course, because it's effectively the industry standard, you can cross rent to other EventMaster users and to and from other EventMaster users and owners, right? Now, talking about the processing, we do a boundless canvas with 8 4K 60 outputs. And I put that in air quotations because we actually do more than 8 4K 60 outputs, especially if you load it up with more additional output cards from the standard configuration. Now, each one of those outputs, 8 outputs, has always available 8 4K 60 layers per screen or 4 mixed layers per screen. Again, we'll talk about that a little bit later. And of course, everything in the system is 12-bit 444 processing, ultra low latency with our pixel perfect Athena scalers. So let's talk about some of that. Let's tool down into the boundless canvas thought process. We have changed over the way that we handle the processing inside of Encore3 versus E2. Now we're more of an output-based system instead of a canvas-based system. So what that means is you can have, sorry, hit the forward button twice there. That means you can have your outputs anywhere on your virtual canvas. The canvas of your actual destination, it doesn't really exist. Effectively, what we tried to do is utilize the outputs as viewports on this fictional canvas. So we don't actually create a massive canvas like we did in E2. We just have viewports on this canvas. And then we program everything to mix and mux and create compositions on those outputs internally. So you can do cool stuff like, use a single background across the entire destination to achieve, a cohesive look across all of your outputs. Or you can treat them as individual outputs as well, which we'll talk about very lightly later. Now, layers can be placed anywhere on the screen and move across it seamlessly. We've seen this before on especially on the E2. And that's kind of the value prop of these processors, right? Is to create this canvas space and then paint your look and display that on screen. Now let's talk about our layer scheme. Let's get into that. And I'm just going to briefly blow through this. I'm probably going to plug this a few times during this conversation is, if you ever have any additional questions, you can always reconsult this video, or you can head over to YouTube and look at all the content that we have created for Encore 3, which goes through this in additional detail, not just a very quick PowerPoint presentation that we're doing today. So let's tool down into what we mean by always available 8 4K 60 layers per screen, or 4 4K 60 mix layers, which is the example that we're doing here, right? So we have 8 outputs, or 8 screen resources, as we like to call them. And those screen resources, they can be combined together to make one massive quote unquote canvas, with repositionable live mixing background, or we can break those out and have those screen layers available anywhere on the screen at any time, or we can split those up into single layers or split layers, and we can do all of this on the fly, right? So we're going to go through some iterations of and examples. So additionally, when we talk about having 4 4K mix layers per screen, if we were to combine all of our 8 outputs into one screen, we would only have 4 mix layers for that massive screen. But with output layers, we can actually divvy those layers up per output. So we can have stuff like this, right? Maximum pips on screen are 64 if you did all single layers, right? This example has all mixed layers, so there's 32 of them on there, because half of 64 is 32. You need two single layers to make a mixed layer. So that's how that maths out. So they can be unmerged with our output layers across that destination. And then additionally, we can create what we call subregions and these or regions. So we could take output 1 and 2, mix those together, and assign 4 4K 60 mix layers to like output 1 and 2 as a group, or output 3 as 4 as a region, 5 and 6 as a region, 7 and 8 as a region. And those layers are visible within their designated subregions, right? Furthermore, when even if they're not regioned or subregioned or regionalized, they can be broken out into split layers. And this slide example is going to show you that you can have pretty much any iteration of split layer, mixed layer, screen layer, output layer, however you want to call them, on your screen destination at any given time. Not only that, but it doesn't require pre-configuration and can be done on the fly. And what we mean by that is that it can actually be done like preset to preset. It doesn't have to, we don't have to go in like the days of old and assign single layers to this destination, mixed layers to that destination, 4K layer to this one, a 2K layer to this one. Everything's 4K, everything's awesome, and it's available everywhere at any time. And then it's up to you during the programming to assign what type of layer, where you want your layer to live, how you want your layer to live. So we've given you all of the awesome ability to really tool down your system. Now, if we take a look at this slide, what this is going to show us is, our layer system can actually be stacked, right? What does that mean? That means that we can steal layers, or we can steal layers from one output and give them to another. And we can actually do that up to 4 times. Stack 3 times for 4 times the amount of layers. So you see it went from 4, 8 to 12 to 16 layers. Now, one of the cool things about that is that just because and this is why I put outputs and screen quotations, is just because we give those layers to destinations. By the way, we saw that if you want to stack a single screen resource, you can do that up to 3 times. If you want to stack a dual screen resource screen, you have to have the same amount of, you're going to sacrifice the same amount of outputs to be able to accomplish that. If that doesn't click, go check out the video that I did where I kind of explained it a little bit in a little bit greater detail. But I digress, because I said that we put the screen resources in air quotes because the actual screen resources, I'm sorry, I put the outputs in quotation marks because in air quotes, because the screen resources can be sacrificed, but that doesn't mean that the physical output is dead. So we can dedicate those outputs to like additional auxes or for multi-viewer, right? Meaning that those physical outputs are not dead, they can be utilized somewhere else. And again, all of this is done 12-bit 444 processing with ultra low latency and our pixel perfect scalars. So let's jump into the physical hardware. If we take a look at the back of an Encore 3, we have, of course, redundant power supplies, control, Dante audio network with little asterisks that'll be in the future. LTC, which is active now, Genlock, USB-C, which is the same USB as the front, well, not the same form factor, but it does the same thing. So if you have a USB-C thumb drive, you can use it on the rear of the unit. If you have an old USB-A, you can use it on the front of the unit. If we look at our card slots here, we have the first slot is what we call our dual use slot. That can be high-speed link card, which would allow you to link to other processors, or it can be utilized as an input card. And then we have 2 slots next to that for input cards, input only. And then we have 4 what we call flex slots, and these flex slots can be input and or output. Meaning, we can use them for input cards, we can use them for output cards, or maybe potentially in the future we could use it for both, wink, wink. And so if we take a look at our capabilities down below, we have up to 16 4K outputs. If you fully load it, you utilize your auxiliary outputs and whatnot. And then we have 7 input capable slots that allow you up to 28 4K 60 inputs. Let's look at, let's really tool this down. So a standard configuration, this is what you would purchase if you just call this up and said, hey, I want a standard config, send this to me. This is what you're going to get. You're going to get your link expansion. You're going to get 4 input cards. 2 of those will be HDMI 2.0 Gen 2 cards, 1 DisplayPort 1.2, and 1 tri-combo input card. Additionally, you're going to get 8 4K 60 outputs, which is 1 tri-combo output card, and then 1 HDMI 2.0 output card. We have what we call the standalone configuration, where we substitute a HDMI 2.0 input card for that high-speed link card. Additionally, we give you more inputs by adding a second tri-combo input card. We also refer to the tri-combo input card as a TCI card. So if I spout off some, TLAs, 3-letter acronyms later, that's what we're saying here. Or we could potentially give you some additional outputs, right? So we could sacrifice some inputs to give you additional outputs, like for a additional multi-viewer, additional aux, whatnot. So these are all just configurations that we can ship. Additionally, we're taking orders for BTOs as well. So you can do build to order for your unit. Maybe you'd want to underload some output cards, underload some input cards because you have your own. That's great. They allow you to do that, or create a custom config that may be all TCIs or TCOs. So we have the flexibility and the possibility to do this. And that's really one of the value props that we'd like to drive home for the EventMaster family, is that you can take these cards and you can swap, switch them, swap them with your friends, trade them, got to have them all, right? And so we allow the possibility to do that with the system, and that's really one of the value props. So speaking of the value of an Encore 3, here's a small little slide that can give you like your potential, what you could get from an Encore 3 in the standard configuration: 16 4K inputs, 8 4K outputs. Those could be a mix and mux of, up to 8 program outputs, or reduce the amount of program outputs, increase the amount of layers on those program outputs, like we saw on a previous slide. Additionally, we can do 2 4K multi-viewers as outputs and as sources. So the cool thing about multi-viewers, which we're going to cover later, and I'm just going to quickly touch on now, is that the multi-viewer inside of the Encore 3 is internally created. So no, you don't have to have an output card dedicated specifically to the multi-viewer. And we think that that's the play, because now we can, if it's internally created, we can use that anywhere, like a dedicated output or in a layer. And one of the cool things that we've seen our customers do already is create a multi-view of multi-viewers, right? So they'll throw, they'll do a link system, throw all four of their multi-viewers in one composition and send that out as a screen destination. And that way they can also overlay our fancy clock system or LTC time code, the LTC display that's also the graphics for the clock and the LTC are internally created. Now, LTC, you do have to have an input with the time code on it, but we'll create a clock. We create the clock for you. And so it's just I'm kind of divulging or kind of going through all this because I want to show you the power and the flexibility of the system. It's not just rigid physical input to rigid physical output, especially on the multi-viewer. Additionally, you can have up to in this configuration, we can have up to four 4K auxiliary outputs, or e.g. 2 per card. And then when we talk about powerful processors for every event, we talked about the fact that we're not a monolithic box. We are the intent behind Event Master and Encore3 is it's intended to be linked when you go into those larger systems, when you go into those larger events, right? We want to show you that you can increase your we can increase your input and output count by simply linking. And linking was available, two-box linking was available at launch with 10.2, which just launched earlier this month / late June. We are now supporting up to 4 boxes linked. So here's just a quick rundown of how many up to how many inputs you could have, how many outputs you can have if they're all linked, right? So a lot to think about there, right? I mean, consider this, you could have like one small, one processor working a mini general session on one day, and then you step into a larger one where it might need 4 processors to accomplish all of the tasks that your larger shows require, right? And then being able to mix and match those and utilize those in different scenarios really, we think really proves that we're a very versatile box that allows you to quickly gain to gain a return on your actual investment. Speaking of state-of-the-art technology, we have shifted over to a standardized QSFP28 sled for the linking, for our high-speed linking, which do need the qualified QSFP28 sleds. Not just everyone would work or will work, but you do need the proper sleds, which can be those can operate like single mode fiber, or you can use the direct attach coppers that are included when you purchase a unit. 2 are included with every purchase, 4 required to link 2 boxes. And so if you purchase 2 units or two boxes, you would have enough link cables to perform a link with 2 boxes. If you purchase 3, you would have enough for 3 and 4 and so on. So the idea is that we are ready to link. Oh, hold on one sec. Background noise, sorry about that. I'm in the office here in Rancho Cordova, and so there's a little bit of background noise. My apologies. Okay, so linking, inexpensive. By the way, those QSFP cages, they're relatively inexpensive when it comes to purchasing them, right? So you can have multiple on hand, and hopefully there's no shortages on those guys either. Now let's talk about operational ease of use. We do have our refined yet familiar user interface, which we've seen has an extremely short learning curve. So it feels very similar to Event Master 9.2, 9.3 and below, but it's more streamlined, right? We really shot for, again, high speed, low drag on that interface. Not only that, we support Windows, we support Mac, we support it on the EC210. And then we also have easy show control with programmable web with a programmable web widget panel. That's a tongue twister. So you can have, you can not only have control of the unit through a Eventmaster toolset, you can set up isolated web widgets that can be accessed on the front panel. They can be accessed through an iPad. They can be accessed through just a normal web browser, right? As long as you're on the same network, you can reach this web widget panel, which I'll show you an example of a little bit later. We have and we also do multiple external APIs for ease of integration. We have a Crestron driver, companion driver, QSys driver, pretty much any control command software that you can dream up. In fact, we even have the ability to create your own because we open up our external API using JSON commands, which is what effectively Companion is utilizing, and so they've just kind of what we have. Our designer has compiled those into the most common uses for those APIs. But again, if you wanted to make your own API or utilize our API to make your own interface, you can. We'll make it really simple. Encore3, especially when you talk about the simulator, has a fast and easy setup for when you arrive on show site. We could do simulated programming before you're on site, modular hardware for field upgrades. So you can, if you program with the simulator and you get on site and realize that your cards aren't the same that were on your simulator, you can switch and swap those as you see fit. Again, we have assisted workflows, both in the hardware and the software to help you get up and running as fast as possible. And I'll highlight some of those as we walk through the presentation or as we walk through the demonstration later. So to maximize efficiency, combine the two of them, reuse your Gen 2 cards, just build what you need with a BTO. We have a wide community of certified operators from E2 that are now coming. We're starting to see those folks jump into the Encore3 as well. We have what we consider world-class training. We take great care to make sure that our students understand the material before they leave, and we're not just processing certificates, and we really focus on that, right? Eric is one of our trainers. In fact, I think he has a class in a week or two. Fantastic training class. I urge you guys to go check that out. I have a class next month. Feel free to come see us, and we'll get you trained up. And of course, if you don't want to do the training, we also have all of those amazing videos, right? If maybe in-person training isn't for you, you can do your own training at your own pace, right? Doesn't mean you're going to be certified, but the videos are there, right? And we want to ensure the real payoff on this is we want to ensure long-term success, right? So we have a strong roadmap ahead with continuous software updates. So let's talk about Encore3 compared to E2. Encore3 is well, both of them are FPGA based, to be honest with you, but Encore3 has two massive FPGAs on board, where the E2 had multiple VPU cards that were kind of really confined and limited as to what they could create, right? But the Encore3 has an FPGA, has two larger FPGAs that allow us to use cool stuff like onboard NVRs as a source. All the video processing is done on the main board. It's just all right there, really quickly, easily accessible. Of course, both units had, field swappable cards, not hot swappable, but field swappable. So if we take a look at the back of a Encore3 versus an E2, there's actually 8 4K60 outputs with preview program, as opposed to an E2, which is only 2 4K60 outputs. If you really kind of tool down the numbers, there's 4 times more pixels in an Encore3, 8 times more eight times more 4K60 layers. There's the same number of 4K inputs and outputs, but there are the less card slots to do more. So that means if you were to purchase purchase less cards, you can actually do more. If you take away the link card, you actually get more 4K inputs and outputs with the Encore3 than you do the E2. So again, more inputs and outputs with link systems. And then that circles us back to the Encore 3 itself, the software releases, right? We have our software releases to date. We're continuously improving the product with patches for maybe some instability issues, and then also updating the features as we go along. So like the .1, the .2, the .3 releases are our big feature releases, where the dot numbers, the 10.0.1, 10.0.2 is a patch to improve stability. And as you can see, we have been consistently improving stability and feature releases since the launch of the product last year. Now we're facing version 10.3, which is going beta at the end of this month, with a projected release of mid to end of August for version 10.3. So let's talk about the upgrade for 10.1. It brought in ultra wide input, screen output copy, EC210 support, stills to aux outputs, auto generating thumbnails. By the way, that auto generating thumbnails is super cool. When we talk about version 10.2, we had 16 new features that we launched that we think are extremely awesome, like the aux program and multi-viewer, the screen creation tile helper, the output backgrounds. So just like your layers, not only can we unmerge the layers, we can actually unmerge backgrounds as well. Additionally, we have virtual screen destinations, independent border HMV control, preset toggle with all trans. So I've already, promoted these a little bit here, but, just taking a look at this, this is a great resource on the how-to series for Encore 3, right? We have everything from inputs to the new update, and we show you kind of how to utilize everything in a very cohesive way. All right, we've got about 23 minutes left. Let's jump over to some cool stuff, and let's take a look at how to download the simulator, how to download the processor. Well, one of the ways to download the software is just to go to the splash page for Encore 3 on our website, and then tool down to the software and downloads portion, manuals, drivers, and support, and kind of get through here. Drivers and software, so on and so forth. The newest firmware is 10.2.49.66. We support OS X and Windows. 41.28 is the current version, or you could potentially use the FOL. So the FTP. So we have an FTP. The password is Folsom. No big secret there. We've been using this for years, and it's a great resource, not just for Encore 3, but for E2. So let's log into this. And I'm going to be moving really quickly here. Again, you can come back and consult the recording for slow it down and gather the information. So we would just go to image processing. Again, great resource for E2, S3, EX, on EC series controllers, Image Pro 4K, software, documentation, kind of everything is housed here in a quick, cohesive view. But if you don't want to use that, that's fine. That's great. We love that you're happy to use the website to acquire it. So let's pretend we downloaded the Event Master toolset and we have installed it. And here we are with Event Master toolset. And let's get into some configuration. I'm going to do a really quick walkthrough of how to set up the simulator and how to launch this, how to launch the system, set up the simulator. So when you actually come into the software, you should be greeted with this. Now, I already pre-launched my simulator, and that's what we're seeing here, 10.34.21. Now I can drag and drop that right into this window, and then it would connect to it. But I'm going to pivot from that a little bit. I'm going to show you how to set up a simulator. Again, if you want to check out more detailed stuff, I urge you to go and watch the video. But I'm just going to drag and drop some tri-combo input cards in, or select and assign a slot. Let's go with this as an output. Let's put some DP 1.2 cards in there. And then it's as simple as hitting reset and launch simulator. Now, if I want to do a linked system, it's pretty simple. I could just hit this plus button for add frame, and I can have up to 4 on my linked system. As I select them, I can configure the cards as I need to, or I can select and delete the selected frames. Go back. We're just going to go with 1 unit for now. we may get into, depending on how much time we have left, we may get into, try to get into a Lean system here. So if we hit Reset Launch Simulator, we'll notice that the sim has popped up, and what we're looking for is for it to say signal VP up and running. And then we can either add by the IP address that we see here, or we can drag and drop. And right off the bat, we see our assisted workflows at hand, right? We see the fact that there's 8 screen destinations that have been created with the first 8 outputs on those cards. And the reason for that is because of this new cool feature that we have up here in the top right-hand corner, the test pattern feature. So if we select the test pattern feature, we can tool down to all of our outputs or our screen destinations. And they're automatically selected so that when you want to turn on a test pattern for all of your outputs, you can just scroll down to your desired test pattern and select it. Now, the cool thing about that is if they're all built, when you get on site, all you got to do is plug this thing in, turn it on, and your outputs are ready to go, right? And so you can get signal to screen as fast as possible doing, link continuity checks. Or sorry, not link continuity, my apologies. Output continuity checks to your devices quickly and easily. So I'm going to turn those all off, and then we're going to stow the test pattern window. Speaking of the top right hand, you'll notice the save button has moved. It's up in the top right hand corner, and then our multi-op is up there as well. So with our assisted workflows, we want to do, we inside of Encore, inside of all of our processors, we have this mnemonic that we use, right? We've created one for almost every one of our processors. The original Encore was droids. The second one was the E2 was BIOS, and now this one is DIMMs. So you want to adjust your destinations, your inputs, and your multi-viewers, and then save, right? So let's do that. Let's adjust our destinations. And to do that, it's really simple. We can select one or many, holding the Control tab to either delete or modify them. So let's delete screen destination 7 and 8, and we'll delete selected and then hit delete. It's going to ask me if I'm sure. Of course, I'm sure. So if we take a look at these outputs or these destinations, we can see in the settings tab where we have the ability to change the format of the output, to adjust our area of interest, to adjust our connector settings, and then of course to increase or decrease layers for your output to sacrifice somewhere else, right? So because this is a single output, it would only require one screen resource to go to add additional layers. So I'm going to add 8 mixed layers, and we'll see our screen resource indicator grew by 1, and then our layer count here, not sure if you could see it, but our layer count grew from 4 to 8. Okay, I'm going to reduce that, go back to 4, frees up a screen resource that we see here. So let's pretend, let's create a output real quick. Let's just do maybe an LED wall. So we'll take an LED wall and we'll say, we'll go into our screen creation. We have our LED radio button selected, and we'll just call this an LED wall. And then our output connector resolution, let's go with 3840 by 2160. And let's do a tile size. Let's actually do our new LCD helper here, because new 10.2 feature, and want to kind of show it off. Right, so let's say we need 3 pieces of information for our LED wall. We're going to go with 192 by 192 panels, and we'll do 21 by 9 panels. And so that's 2 outputs. It's going to give me a total horizontal and total vertical resolution, and then I want to balance those AOI so I can quickly show you how that works. And then we're going to select our connectors, and then we'll hit create screen destination. Here's our screen destination. And if we take a look at the wide tab for that screen destination, we can see that the AOIs were sectioned off for us based upon our calculations. And then the edge butt was also performed for us. So it's really super simple. Again, I go through all of this in greater detail in those videos, and I hate to keep hawking those things, but the reality of it is there's way more information in those than I could give you in a half an hour or 10-minute crash course. So take a look at that when you have time. For inputs, our input scheme is so cool. I mean, now we have the ability to add single, we have the ability to add multiple, by selecting more than one and then hitting add single, which treats it as a group input. That group input can be utilized as a group or as singles. Right now we can use what we call the children of our group input as individual inputs. So you're not just limited to using a group input as a group input on perhaps a background connector, which you may have seen before. So we've got a couple of inputs here. I'm going to add one or two more just for fun. For the interest of time, I'm not even going to label them. We're just going to keep pushing. So if we take a look at the system view, this gives us, if we were linked, we would see more than one unit. Again, with our link resource, we give you, a really tactical overview of what your system is doing, how it's performing, if your power supplies are plugged in, if your connectors are active, if your inputs are active. And then if we jump over to, we've adjusted the destinations, we've adjusted the inputs. Now let's work on the multi-viewers, the M part of our DIMMs. So if we take a look at our multi-viewer, by default, the connector resolution is set to 1920 by 1080, but you can always increase that to a widescreen or even a 4K. And then you can assign specific connectors to it, or we can use it as an internally created source, which we talked about already. And that's what we're going to do here. We're actually going to utilize it as an internally created source. So if we jump over from, before we move on, let's look at the Files tab. So in the Files tab, we can actually we can create custom formats to be utilized as EDIDs or output formats. Additionally, with 10.2, we give you the ability to import and export your own EDID files. And of course, HDR metadata can be saved as well. It's saved and utilized later as well. And so now let's get back into the multi-viewer. So let's take a look at the multi-viewer. Here's our world-class award-winning multi-viewer. Now, we only have one unit, so we have two multi-viewers, multi-viewer 1, multi-viewer 2, both ID 0, both ID 0. We have multiple layouts that we give you. So layout number 1 is an automatically as an auto layout, and it's auto generated. And then we also, as we create additional input or additional output, it will assign the it'll assign that input or output to multi-viewer. Let's say you don't want to use any of our pre-configured multi-viewers or our templates, which we also offer. Say you don't want to use any of those, you can quickly switch to another layout view and then create your own custom multi-view, right? And so we can have our own little custom multi-view. Not only that, but we can adjust the border, the UMD. UMD stands for under monitor display, which is this little display down there. The color on the border, the UMD, and the background. Or new for Encore 3 is the ability to add a still as background. So if you've imported a still, you can add that as a background to your multi-viewer, which means custom multi-viewers for your customer, right? You can put their logo, you can put your logo on there, you can self-promote and whatnot. Additionally, we give you the handles to adjust the multi-viewer resolution here, and then really get precise with all of our windows. So we give you the map, and we also allow you to create what we call custom sizes. I'm not going to get too deep into that stuff. And then we have multi-viewer presets. Again, this is a fundamental course. I'm not going to really dive into that. And then we have our clocks we can use as time sources inside of our multi-viewer. So we can have a clock. That clock can be configured to be, again, it could be the time of the processor, or it can be LTC. If we went in and configured one of our time channels, we could change that to say LTC. And then hit save. And then if we look at our multi-viewer, it's now an LTC time channel, which can be displayed on our multi-viewer. Again, the advantages of the internally created multi-viewer, the internally created clock graphic, the internally created LTC graphic. So cool stuff for the multi-viewer. Again, alignment buttons down here at the bottom, all the stuff that you need to make a super sweet multi-viewer. So we've done our DIMMs, we've done our destinations, we've assigned our inputs, we've assigned our multi-viewers, we've created our multi-viewer. Let's jump back to layout number 1, and then let's get into the programming page. Now, the programming page is kind of where all the magic happens, right? And we really shoot for high speed, low drag on this one, meaning that, we can, let's take a look at the LED wall and turn on cool stuff like the AOI area of interest markers, right? Where we can drag in layers, create compositions. Let's see, here let's turn off the AY markers. And so you'll see really cool stuff. Snapping is now inside of version 10.2 and greater. To turn that on, you want to come into your settings and turn on your snapping. And so now we see, snapping for our pips and our windows. And so that's gaining improvement in 10.3 as well, because we're constantly upgrading the software. We're constantly upgrading the box to make it, more usable for the operator, right? We have a pretty sweet background or backup scheme to where if you have an interruption of signal from an input, we can assign a backup for it and turn on the auto switch, or we can force an input to go to backup if we're on a live unit. Speaking of live units, we can connect to more than one system per EventMaster toolset instance. So, you can actually control more than one unit at a time. Not necessarily quickly, you have to toggle between the two, but I'll show you that in just a second. We can use stills, we can use destinations as inputs. So you can do cool stuff like sub-switching of pips, which utilized with a virtual destination could be super cool, right? You could give an operator just the camera feed and have that operator operating the camera switching, and then have a screen operator where that screen operator's operating, not just the line cut of the camera, but they're also operating they're just operating the screens. And with our multi-user workflow, as well as the virtual destinations or even destinations as a source, we have built this cohesive system over the past 30 years of doing this to allow to really give the users probably even more than they ask for sometimes, and then what they ask for, right? If you look at a lot of our features, they're based upon feedback of the users, right? We really focus on helping the user be faster, right? That's what we're all looking for, is just to be faster, get everything done, get everything on screen, get your presets made. Speaking of presets, we allow for complete presets, which take a snapshot of the entire system, basically, of the entire group of destinations, whether they're armed for transition or not. Every aspect of what you see on screen would be saved, right? Or we could dive a little bit deeper and do what we call relative presets. We don't have the time to get into those, but relative presets help you focus. And have like what we call targeted presets. And so you can have, presets that just affect a clock that come up, on and off screen, or logo or lower third. So that means you don't have to make a bunch of presets. Again, go watch the video, check it out on presets. We can also support external device commands. That I think for the sake of time, I'm going to jump out of the programming page and just kind of go into the external devices and go through the rest of the system. So we can support external devices and queues, where we can add queues and then have that queue perform actions. Those can be internal actions. Those can be external actions with external device control as well, which we support. We have a tally system. So you can set up tally for, say, your graphics op, right? So they know that the graphics are on screen or in preview or in program. Well, also we have controller support. So we talked about the EC30, the EC50, and the EC210. So we now show you a virtual representation of the right-hand side of the EC210. Not just show you, it's operable. You can actually utilize it and show if you really wanted to. And then one of my favorite schemes that we use inside of Encore3 now is this thing called the show file editor. And the show file editor, what this does is this allows us to back up our system, restore our system, or edit the show file that we had created. Not only does it do it on the live system like we used to be able to do with E2, but with Encore3, we can actually do it with simulators. So what's that mean? Just like the PowerPoint said, we can utilize time before the show to program it so that when we arrive on show site, you simply load your backup from your simulator and you're 90% of the way there, right? We still don't support stills inside of the inside of the simulator. But once you get on site, you can load your stills and finish off your programming. But if we take a look at the backup restore or the editor, say if we were to choose a show file from my computer, we could edit the, we could merge in presets, we could merge in EDID files, we could merge in all kinds of cool stuff. And then we're back to the simulator, and then the widget panel real quick. So the widget panel, we can either open a preset, or sorry, a template with our presets, a template with our cues, or we can create a new widget from scratch. And this should look familiar. This is sort of the thought process we do when we have presets, right? Or sorry, the multi-viewer, excuse me. So we can do, say, previous preset, next preset. And if I had created some presets, let's just create a few presets really quickly. If I have the presets here, I can bring them out. And what this means is these are now buttons that we can utilize when we launch this widget. We can launch this widget from a web page. We can launch this widget from the front panel. In fact, we give you the option here on the right in the widget settings. And so if we save this widget and go to the website here, because it's a sim, my computer is not happy with it. But if we were on a live unit, which I can show you here shortly, that would work. Again, we can adjust all of the colors and the UI components for it. But this could be accessible again from the front panel, from a web page, what have you. And then we have our settings where we have keyboard shortcuts. Now this is a sim, so we can't see the actual what we call the web UI or the web server. But since we're connected to the Office system, I'm going to add by IP address, and I'm going to connect to an Office system. In fact, it's the one that's behind me here, the 4 unit system that we have here.
You call that the Tower of Power?
No, actually, I call it the Leaning Tower of Encore3s, because it's got a slight lean to it. But Tower of Power is a good one. I like that. So if we take a look at this, we can, again, here's a perfect example of connecting to multiple systems at the same time. So I can connect to my simulator or my live system in my room, and then I can connect to the one that's in the office here. And if we take a look at the system view, we give you the linking schematic, if it's accurate or not. Even with 10.2, we give you the ability to run a link test between the systems. And then we show you the link resources. So this is how all of the links are being utilized. We're fully transparent now with our linking scheme. And in fact, if we had more time, I would go over segmented linking and whatnot, but I think we're running really short. And if we take a look at the web UI, we have the ability to manage software, back it up, restore it. Now that we're connected to an actual unit, we get this web server. And then let's see. I think we have like 1 minute left, so I'm not going to waste the time on the widgets. But there is the extremely quick crash course on Encore 3 and Event Master and the current state of our system. I'm sorry I didn't leave much time for questions, but I'm happy to answer those in chat or email you back after everything is all said and done.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep. Well, I was gonna first off, thank you, Vince. Thank you for a lot of information, a little bit of time. I know that was probably drinking from a fire hose on a lot of levels.
Yeah.
I did want to highlight some of the resources that you highlighted throughout the presentation, and we had some questions about those. So one thing that you highlighted was the Barco YouTube page, and being able to go there and use the playlist series that you have. Here, I'll bring you back on. So there's an example of it right there, and I also dropped a link in that Q&A specifically, but I literally found it just by searching Barco YouTube Encore 3 playlist and pulled this right up. The other thing that was a question was about the Encore 3 Barco University classes. So that's on the Barco training page, and I dropped a link for that as well. And there we'll have the different versions of the class. Do y'all have an on-demand class there, or is it just the in-person classes?
Currently no on-demand or web-based classes. I would also like to say something. For 2026 and really kind of version 10.2 and beyond, we're revamping the classes. So we're actually going to break them down into two-day classes instead of one 3-day class. We now, because we've introduced so many features in 10.2, we now have enough time to split it down. So we're going to go back to the same thought process we had for E2, which is an operator specialist class. Operators very much an intro. It's drinking from a fire hose as well, but it gives you all of the basics. And then specialist is where we tool down more into very specific features and utilizing those features in a cohesive manner.
Okay. Another question that came out was about the cards, and I just wanted to touch base on that in case people didn't see it in the Q&A, and that was that the cards that carry forward to Encore 3 are specifically the Gen 2 I/O cards. So HDMI input and output, Tri-Combo input and output, and DisplayPort 1.2 input and output. The CXP I/O card does not at this time, and neither does the SDI fiber card, which are kind of Gen 1.5-ish cards, right?
Yeah. I used to call that one the Gen 1.5 because it only did like one 4K output, the fiber card specifically. That's been discontinued for quite some time, by the way.
Yep. And what couple of things I just had in my notes as you were going through that stuck out to me is one of the things that kind of seems to be the overarching idea and philosophy in Barco is that number one, flexibility, number two, speed of setup. So, you realize as a company and as an image processing team what is important in the event space. I need to be able to, today I have a small room and a single Encore 3 might be good. Next week, I need to bring 2 or 3 Encore 3s together. I need to customize my card loadout. And then, further to that, it goes to speed of setup where you have, the test pattern button. I don't think you even addressed, but you can throw test patterns out of machine within 3 seconds of getting it booted up, basically, so that you can ensure that all your cable runs are good. The LED region of interest stuff, setting that up, super simple, super quick. And then the user files, being able to take pieces of a prior show or things that you've used before, and then bring just those pieces forward into your current user environment and what you're doing today. Those are all very powerful and very flexible things that really show that for Barco, the event space is what this is built for. It's not built to, sit in an installation. Well, it's not built first. It'll definitely do the job, but it's not built first to go sit in an installation and just push the same screen in 4 different ways as the TV channel changes. So,
right. And and to tool back on that, really to dive into the show file, especially if we take a look at that. By the way, we're slightly over time, which I'm comfortable with. We could sit here for another half hour. I don't mind that. But I want to be respectful of everybody's time that's viewing. But we can get, we can drag this out a little bit. But I just want to show everybody real quick the show file stuff. So I'm going to set up a quick show file from a backup that I have on my desktop somewhere in here. I don't know, just grab this one. So we can. Oh, it has to download. It's going to take a second. That one's probably living in the cloud. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So we can bring over stuff like cues, custom formats, EDID files, external devices, HDR files, preset stills. So like I can imagine, a company or a group of users or a group of operators could have all of their custom formats, all of their EDID files, all of their external devices pre-built, and they just share them between each other. And like, okay, I'm going into the show and I want to control my Playback Pro machine. I don't think very many people use that one, but I want to control my Pixera server or my Disguise server or whatever, and have those external device commands already pre-built, ready to go. I think this is super clutch, and I think Barco, we have done a pretty decent job at allowing the users to reutilize those pieces of information. Thank you for allowing me to circle back on that.
Of course. But as we are at time and slightly over, I did want to go ahead and I think we do need to go ahead and close out. And I will note that there will be a follow-up email if you were on this call, if you were on this session. We'll go ahead and within that follow-up email, we'll have the ability to get this presentation, get this video presentation, and also follow-up links to the following presentation. So on July 30th, we have the oh gosh, I forgot the names of them, but we have more in-depth sessions on July 30th and August 20th. Once again with Vince, and we'll go through another hour of a quick view of some things, but also with some resources when you want to dive in and dig in and learn more about these individual steps. Those things are out there. So with that, I think that's all we have for today. Thank you, Vince. Thank you for walking us through all that. And we look forward to seeing everyone next time.
Woo. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye.